Hey guys, this is a breaking news about Ukraine. It is really funny that Ukrainians drove out their democratically elected president. Yes, Ukraine has killed democracy, and democracy will never come anymore in that country. But why? Why did they do this? Why did they kill a well established democracy? Yes, it is because they found that the president was pro-Russian. Of course, the people of Ukraine have made a tragic mistake that they will never reverse. They preferred EU dictatorship and invited Europeans and the Americans to intervene in their domestic politics. They preferred chaos than stability. They preferred civil war than peaceful coexistence. They prefer to be a battleground for the East-West Cold War and probable bloodshed. They sacrifice their women, children, and their future generations for the people of bloodthirsty Anglo-Americans. The Ukrainians, they do not know why the Americans came all the way from the far west to that part of the world, thousands of miles away from their homeland. They do not know why John McCain came from the United States and blessed the demonstration and the havoc. They do not know why John Kerry blessed the coup. They do not know why David Cameron and his foreign minister supported the revolution. They do not know why Barack Obama got delighted by the bloodshed. The people of Ukraine do not know about who these people are and what their commonalities is. Yes, they all are Zionist Jews and slaves of the Zionists. John McCain is a Republican and a Jew. John McCain is a Jewish, and John Kerry is a Democrat and also a Jew. John is Jewish. And the fact that made them stand together is their Zionist Jewishness and nothing else. This means they are both Zionists who control the only two parties in the government of the United States. Barack Obama, the President of the United States, who is also a Democrat, is also a Zionist Jew or servant of the Zionists. Barack is a Jewish name. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Cameron, is also a Zionist Jew. David is Jewish and nothing else. This means the United States of America and the British are fighting the war of the Jews. It does also mean that the Jews are the ones who control or colonized the land and people of both the United States and the British. Shame on the people of both countries. Shame on you. Shame on you, Americans. Shame on you, British. For they don't know they are slaves of the Zionist Jews. Here is what you should know. In the 1920s, the Zionists controlled Russia, funded and trained by the Zionists in New York and Manhattan. They created the Soviet Socialist Republic. The Zionist Soviet Socialists killed the true Russians and Russian-related people of Ukraine, Belarus, and other Christians in the region. Russians were victims of Zionist Soviets. The mass killing in Ukraine, the genocide of Christians, was made by the Zionist Socialists, not by the people of Russia. as Russian Christians were also killed by the same Zionist socialist Soviets. The same force invaded too many people and nations throughout the world and occupied almost half of the entire world for almost half a century. They were then stopped and contained by the West. The Zionists then took over the West and advanced to expand in a new mask called democracy. They destroyed socialism from Soviet Union and from most of its satellite states. When the Zionist socialists are removed from the Soviet Union, the true Russians grabbed their dignity, pride in their true identity, and took over power in Russia. This time, the Judaized West started to attack and contain Russia again using different tactics. The Zionists formed the EU, the European Union, and controlled the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, easily. This is a fact on the ground. This is the truth. This is a reality that the whole white race of Europe do not want to comprehend. The Zionists use the military might of the Europeans and the Americans to achieve their strategic interest in the Middle East and the globe at large. The Zionists sacrificed the sons and daughters of the Americans and Europeans in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, and in Pakistan. They also orchestrated the civil war and probable American and British military intervention in Syria and Iran. Yes, the Zionist state of Israel needs these places. She wants to control the whole mass of land from Egypt to Iran, occupying part of Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Iran. So, for Israel to control these nations, Americans and Europeans should send their children for sacrifices. Smart Jews, smart Zionists. That's why it is said the Zionists are the ones who dominated the whites of Europe and America. Likewise, those Ukrainians who were mass killed by the Zionist Soviets are now being prepared for sacrifice again by the Zionist-led European Union for a bloodshed with their true brothers, Russians, not Soviets. Yes, Zionists are wise. There is nothing that they are not capable of under the sun, and people of the world, including those chauvinist whites in Europe and in the US, have already given their sovereignty up for the Zionists. And without question, the Jews govern the whole Western world. This being the fact, the natural balance to counter the Zionist West is the strong alliance of the Eastern world, including Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Iran, Syria, Yugoslavia, Greek, Macedonia, Kyrgyzstan, and all other nations of that region. These nations should fight back against any Zionist Western plot to interfere in the politics of the Eastern world. This is the truth. This is the reality. If the Ukrainians fail to work with their historical and geographical allies and want to ally with the Zionist Europe, the whole Eastern world should be able to protect their regional interests and should occupy the area that they think is strategic. As Germany was divided into East and West, And as Korea was split into North and South, Ukraine should also be split into East and West. This is what Ukrainians should know. This is what Europeans and Americans should know. The Russians should use whatever arsenal they have to secure this. As the whole plot is to control and contain Russia, Russians should defend their national interest in the region. There is no evidence more than the fact that the Zionist Anglo-American supply of weapons for Islamists and terrorists in Syria, with the help of the Saudis and the Turks, to frustrate and drive out Russians from that country, like what they did in Afghanistan back days, training and arming Arab mercenaries and terrorist mujahideens, including the famous Bin Laden, to drive out the Soviets from Afghanistan. For their own safety, security and sovereignty, the Russians should go as far as using their nuclear capability. To this day, the Russians have been fully committed for international law and order, unlike warmonger, bloodthirsty Zionist Americans and Europeans, who have demonstrated their arrogance in Iraq, Libya, Yugoslavia, and in the recent Arab revolutions. This is what the people of these countries should know. This is what the people of the US, the people of the British, and all the people of Europe should know. For a nuclear war not to happen, for another world war and bloodshed like the two world wars not to happen, they have to stop their governments from interfering in the internal affairs of other nations. They have to nationalize their own governments. They have to clear their governments of Zionists. They have to clear their media of Zionist propaganda. This is an advice for the people of the United States, the British, the French, the Germans, Italians, and Turks, the governments of which are controlled by the Zionists. One other thing that people of Europe and the United States should know is that the Zionists may not be afraid of any world war or nuclear conflicts that will consume Europe and America, as they have been preparing themselves from nuclear attack in the past. The Zionists have already built their shelters and they know nothing will happen to them. After all, the Zionists may even need the nuclear war for a rapid world population reduction that they indeed need. Who therefore will be eradicated and will be wiped out will be you, the people of the United States, you, the people of Europe, and other nations who know nothing about what has been going on. Yes, it is you and your future generations that will suffer most. This is what no rational-minded human being wants to happen, and the only solution that you may have is to oppose your Zionist-dominated governments and to nationalize Zionist media, to free yourself from Zionist bondage and servitude, to free your nation from Zionist's colony of your country, to free your children from the psychological colonialism made by the Zionist media and schools, to rise up against Zionist government machineries to the extent of a revolution in your respective countries, so that you may be able to restore the pride and dignity that you have been denied decades or centuries ago. And the people and governments of the Eastern world should be committed for a collective security, for a common defense, growth and prosperity. Your enemies are very wise and powerful. They know how to divide you, destroy you, eliminate you, and control you. You people of Ukraine and Syria, think twice, think ahead, and analyze the whole situation. Who is benefited from the chaos? Who is benefited from the civil war? Who sacrificed his life? Who sacrificed his women and children? Who is adding fuel on the fire and profited from the civil war? But I tell you one thing, don't blame Russia for whatever will happen. Russia is at war against evil. Russia is at war against colonialists. Russia is at war against imperialists. Russia is at war against expansionists. Russia is at war against immoral adventurers. Russia is at war against those who want to expand homosexuality in the Eastern world. Yes, Russia is at war against anti-Christians who want to systematically destroy Christianity in the Christian world. As Ukraine is the historical center of the Eastern Christian world, the Russians have the moral obligation to defend Christianity and its followers in that part of the world.